Cleared of manslaughter, a violent and abusive man whose girlfriend took her own life. Kiana Dawes killed herself after appalling abuse by Ryan Wellings, leaving their baby in the care of her friend on the morning she died, and a suicide note blaming him. Today, Wellings was found not guilty of killing Kiana, to the fury of her family.
I honestly cannot put into words just how much it breaks my heart that her beautiful baby girl doesn't have her mummy here because of that monster. And I just wish with all my heart that I could bring her back and say, it's okay, you're safe now.
Wellings is the first person to face trial over the unlawful killing of a partner after a suicide prompted by domestic violence. He denied everything, but was found guilty of assault and coercive and controlling behaviour. The police now face questions over their handling of the case, also tonight. It's not over yet. LA residents are warned the wildfires could flare up again with near hurricane-force winds on their way. AI incoming. The PM pledges to turn the UK into an artificial intelligence superpower to help boost growth. But the news is still negative on the economy. A legal challenge for private parking companies. They could be forced to give customers longer to pay for their tickets. And
we're going on a bear hunt!
We're going to catch a big one.
Familiar words for any reader of bedtime stories, but there's been a new offering from the creator of this iconic children's book.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. The violent boyfriend of a young mother who took her own life and blamed him for driving her to her death has been found not guilty of killing her. 23-year-old Kiana Dawes killed herself in July 2022 after leaving her 9-month-old daughter with a friend. She left a note on her phone accusing Ryan Wellings of murdering her after subjecting her to a campaign of abuse. Well, today, to the anger of Kiana's family, Wellings was cleared of her manslaughter at Preston Crown Court. He was, though, found guilty of assault and coercive and controlling behaviour. A warning, you may well find details in Rachel Townsend's report highly distressing.
There's blood everywhere, help! Help me! Help me!
What's happened?
Pregnant and terrified. After 2 years of prolonged abuse, Kiana Dawes was left battered and broken. Eventually, in July 2022, Kiana could take no more, leaving her baby with a friend before taking her own life. Left alongside her daughter was a note written on her mobile phone that read, "I fought hard, I fought long. I went through pain no one could imagine. I was murdered. Ryan Wellings killed me." But today a jury at Preston Crown Court cleared her ex-partner Ryan Wellings of her manslaughter, instead finding him guilty of assault and coercive and controlling behaviour.
Her baby girl was brought to my home a few hours after Kiana was found. Her beautiful baby girl doesn't have her mummy here because of that monster. I truly hope that no other young lady or child has to go through what he did to my daughter and her baby. And I just wish with all my heart that I could bring her back and say, it's okay, you're safe now.
So he's pushed the door into you, has he?
Yeah, he smashed the door straight off me.
Right.
Over 2 years, Kiana had been slapped, her hair ragged, and Wellings had threatened to take her teeth out with a drill. This was the 5th of 6 interactions with Lancashire Police. Previously, Kiana had dropped charges, but not this time. And when Wellings was arrested, he sobbed in the back of a police van. Wellings denied manslaughter and became the first defendant to be tried before a jury for the unlawful killing of his partner after suicide following domestic violence. Once the verdicts were read out, Wellings gave a thumbs up and blew a kiss towards the public gallery. Kiana, a new mum, a daughter, a sister and friend, suffered with an emotionally unstable personality disorder, a vulnerability exploited to such an extent she believed her life was no longer worth living.
Now, Rachel, the court heard that before she died, Kiana had felt unsupported by the local police. And now 3 Lancashire officers are facing misconduct hearings over their dealings with her case.
Yeah, that's right. And this follows an investigation by the police watchdog. They looked at the police response into an earlier report of assault on Kiana Dawes and a report of her going missing. Well, that investigation has now concluded, and Lancashire police say 3 of their officers will now face disciplinary proceedings. 2 for misconduct and 1 officer for gross misconduct. And in another development in this case this afternoon, the mother and girlfriend of Ryan Wellings are now also under investigation for coaching Ryan Wellings to give evidence in this trial. The prosecution say that during this trial, while he was at HMP Preston, phone calls took place between the 3 of them where this trial was discussed. And if that happened, that could amount to conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Well, Ryan Wellings will be back here on Thursday, where he will be sentenced for assault and for coercive and controlling behaviour.
Rachel Townsend in Preston, thank you. And if you have been affected by any of these issues, there are links to organisations who can help on our website. That's itv.com/news. The ongoing wildfires in California now, where residents have been warned it is not over yet, with near hurricane-force winds set to hit the Los Angeles area. It's feared they could whip up the fires again, and people are being urged to heed any evacuation warnings. There have been 24 confirmed deaths and 24 people are still missing. More looters have been arrested, and authorities are warning people to watch out for profiteering and scams. With the latest from Los Angeles, here's our correspondent, Romilly Weeks.
Smoke filling his view, US military pilots have been called in to help douse the flames from the air as Los Angeles battles to get ahead of the fires before more ferocious winds barrel in. Residents here barely able to count the cost of some of the deadliest blazes in the city's history are now facing what the authorities fear could be another critical test.
We're not in the clear. I want to make sure of that. We are not in the clear as of yet, and we must not let our guard down. As we have right now extreme fire behavior, and we need to make sure that the community is staying updated with the most information, updated information as well.
The surf still laps LA's golden shores, but the city has never looked like this. The area already damaged by fire is the size of the whole of Cardiff. Over 100,000 evacuated and 13,000 homes and other buildings destroyed. Among them, Wendy's. She's sleeping in an emergency shelter with her paralysed son and 2 daughters, and she's exhausted.
All I grabbed was my son, carry him out, and that's all I took. I didn't take no clothes, I didn't take no paperwork, I didn't take nothing. All I was worrying about, carrying my son to the car, that's it.
You didn't even manage to leave with anything, not even your phone?
We lost everything, we practically lost everything what we had. So we gotta start from zero to start all over again.
It's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's pretty hard when you lose everything.
Wendy's son Eric didn't want to be filmed, but he did want to say this.
Yeah, it sounds like your mom is an amazing woman.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah. She takes good care of you.
She really does.
LA residents are trying to help families left destitute by the fires. This enormous donation centre is entirely organised by volunteers. A continuous stream of cars arriving with clothes and food, exhausted evacuees able to take whatever they need. The cost of the fire is already estimated at over £200 billion. And as officials here warn, the end is not even close. Romilly Weeks, ITV News, Los Angeles.
Well, this is the latest situation on the ground in LA. Of the 5 major fires burning over the weekend, crews are still tackling 3, the smallest. The Hearst fire is now 95% contained, while the much larger Palisades and Eaton fires are still raging. Around 60 square miles have been burned. The Palisades fire alone has burned 37 square miles. Winds have died down a little, but there are still red flag warnings issued by the country's National Weather Service for severe fire conditions, with gusts of up to 70 miles an hour. Let's go back to our correspondent Romilly Weeks, who's in Altadena in Los Angeles tonight. So, Romilly, what are the emergency services doing ahead of these winds whipping up again?
Well, Mary, they're really throwing absolutely everything they can at this while they've got the chance. I'm actually in Brentwood on the edge of the biggest fire, the Palisades fire. If I can show you behind me just what's going on. This area is under evacuation. That's the National Guard there with their armoured vehicles preventing people going back to their homes. And if you can see into the distance, there is a line of fire engines stretching pretty much as far as you can see. We've just driven up this road towards the fire zone, and it is a hive of activity. There are fire crews in the mountainsides up here trying to create fire breaks, cutting the brush by hand. The driveways and the roads are stained pink with fire retardant. The power has been cut to all these houses to stop the risk of electrical fires. But it's the topography of this area that makes it so difficult to get the fires contained. It's densely populated, but it backs on to the hillsides and the mountainsides. And although they're doing absolutely everything they can, when the winds whip up this evening and into tomorrow, it's only then that we'll know whether they've managed to do enough.
OK, Romilly Weeks in Los Angeles, thank you. And we will return to the California fires later in the programme with a special report from Robert Moore at 7 p.m.
I wanted you to meet this man.
How you doing, sir?
We meet the residents of one Los Angeles street, some of whose homes were saved by heroic firefighters and some who weren't as lucky. Meanwhile, here, the Prime Minister has pledged to turn the UK into an artificial intelligence superpower in a bid to boost growth. Sir Keir Starmer said the government will look at 50 recommendations from tech entrepreneur Matt Clifford. AI could be used to reduce admin in the public sector, to spot potholes from roadside cameras, for example, or even free up teachers' time by helping to plan lessons. Here's our political editor, Rob Peston.
200 years ago, we lived through the steam industrial revolution. Today, it's the artificial intelligence industrial revolution that'll transform every aspect of our lives, from diagnosing cancer to catching criminals to how young people learn in schools. And at a time when the economy is stagnating, the PM says he wants to make the UK what he calls an AI superpower to restart growth.
The opportunities of this technology, they're not just going to somehow fall into our lap. This is the global race of our lives.
Now, in all industrial revolutions of this magnitude, there are shocks to the labour market. Some people's pay is flattened, other people lose their jobs.
We are absolutely making sure that we're focused on working people and on jobs and what happens to them.
Among the 50 initiatives are increasing by 20-fold the capacity of supercomputers owned by government and universities, creating a national data library of health and other information vital for training artificial intelligence, recruiting AI experts from around the world, adapting regulation to the needs of this revolutionary new industry, and creating AI growth zones to accelerate connecting new data centres and supercomputers to the national grid.
The UK doesn't have a single supercomputer in the world's 50 most powerful. It's too little too late.
But we're starting from a low point when it comes to compute, but look at what we're doing.
And what are the jobs of the future that parents should be talking to their kids about?
AI will disrupt many people's workplaces, but AI will also mean that we have a more pleasurable, exhilarating, satisfying experience in the workplace, because we'll be doing more of the things that plug directly into our talent.
So here's an example of a typical email.
Even now, at Octopus Energy, an AI programme generates answers to even quite complex questions asked by customers.
About 45% of all our emails are composed with the help of AI, and customers rate the help they get more highly than when it's just from a human. Going forward, we're already experimenting with voice AI, so that, and we know some companies are already using it, so that when you phone up, some of the conversation may be had with AI. Of course, we wouldn't deploy that until we give better results than we do today.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Not normally a good sign when the men in white coats turn up, unless I suppose one of them is the Prime Minister and he's promising to deploy technology to make us richer.
Let's go straight to Robert now. The Prime Minister was also forced, wasn't he, publicly to back the Chancellor Rachel Reeves today. Will any of today's announcements actually help this country's finances, Robert?
Well, let's just focus on that extraordinary statement from the Prime Minister at the press conference I was attending earlier on, that he has full confidence in his Chancellor Rachel Reeves, which was followed only a couple of hours later by the Downing Street official spokesman saying she was certain to keep her job till the next election. I've literally never come across, in all my time covering these things, Downing Street giving that kind of job security to any minister, let alone the Chancellor. But the reason they feel forced to do that is, of course, because only a matter of weeks after her incredibly ambitious budget, when she raised £70 billion from taxes and borrowing, on the basis of her own fiscal rules, she's run out of money. And she's run out of money because investors have, to an extent, turned against the government, and the amount that the government has to pay to borrow has gone up to levels we haven't seen for many, many years. Now, the pressure is therefore on in the short term for the government to say how it's going to fill this new black hole that's been created. Obviously, the last thing it wants to do is raise taxes or cut spending. The most painful way out of it would be to get the growth rate up. And what they've announced today, if it goes to plan, will push up the growth rate. But not for many years. That is the problem. And an awful lot has to go right. I have to say the plan they announced today is very ambitious, but it's fraught with execution risks. So they've got to find another way to get the growth rate up. I understand that the Chancellor is going to make a very important speech in just a couple of weeks in which she will try and reassure the markets that this economic stagnation is going to end. But the stakes for the government, for her and for us are pretty high.
Robert in Westminster, thank you. Well, there is plenty more still to come in the ITV Evening News, including growing signs tonight that a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel in Gaza could be close. The long-awaited ferry, the Glen Sannox, set sail with passengers for the first time. And we visit one LA street caught by the wildfires, where even those who've been lucky must reckon with how life has changed.
Well, you know, it feels good. But what's the house without a neighborhood? There's no neighbors, there's no friend.
And we will be back after the break. Join us then. Hello again, welcome back. Now, there are growing signs tonight that a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel in Gaza could be very close and could be agreed within days. Our US correspondent Dan Rivers is in Washington tonight. Dan, it feels like we've been in this sort of area before. Why do we think that a deal might happen this time?
Well, the mood music, Mary, is very positive coming out of the region and out of Washington as well. I mean, we know that there are 98 hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza, including 7 Americans. And there is talk now of this deal being ever closer. It would involve changes to the Israeli troop deployments inside Gaza, so there would be a gradual withdrawal of Israeli troops from 2 key areas across the middle of Gaza, particularly, and down near the Egyptian border. And that would result then in a phased release of these hostages, 33 initially, and then more as more Israeli troops move out. But having said that, I think we are still possibly some, hours or days from this. This is what the president's own national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, said just in the last couple of hours.
We think those details are on the brink of being fully hammered out,
and the parties are right on the cusp of being able to close this deal. Whether or not we go from where we are now to actually closing it, the hours and days ahead will tell.
Donald Trump himself, the president-elect, who'll be in office in a week, has said all hell will break out if a deal isn't done by the time he gets into the Oval Office. His own envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been in the region. He has no diplomatic experience, but he does have one critical advantage, a hotline direct to Donald Trump.
Dan Rivers in Washington, thank you. Some other news, and here a second person's been charged with assisting the former soldier Daniel Khalif to escape from prison. 30-year-old Adil Khan from East London is accused of helping Khalif after he escaped from HMP Wandsworth last September. Khalif was found guilty of spying for Iran after a trial in November 2024. And 5 men have been jailed for between 12 to 17 years after using the dating app Grindr to target and rob victims. Birmingham and Derby, the defendants, all from Birmingham, were convicted last year after stealing more than £100,000 over 10 months. The court heard that they used Grindr to lure men to parks where they were then attacked, held captive and robbed. Now, the long-awaited Glen Sannox ferry made its first scheduled journey between the Scottish mainland and the island of Arran today, nearly 7 years late and hundreds of millions of pounds over budget. And even as the ship crossed the Firth of Clyde, it emerged that now there are still flaws to be fixed. Here's our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith on the ferry fiasco.
The ferry to Arran was late this morning, and it shouldn't be this remarkable. But this is the Glen Sannox. It is already 7 years late and about 4 times over budget.
Cheers, boys. Cheers.
Today is a moment to celebrate, but the makeshift service that's left the island cut off for so long has been brutal for business.
I run a guest house in Brodick, so it has been really challenging the last few years with the reliability of the boats. It's the hit when we've lost thousands of pounds.
You've lost
thousands of pounds in lost bookings over the years.
Willie is 81, lived on Arran his whole life, and he's never known the ferry service to be so chaotic.
What have you been through for the last few years with waiting for this ferry?
Pure hell. I mean, you have to pay for bed and breakfast nights you don't need to, and you're missing days out, and it's just unreal. You've got to experience it to know what it's like.
The new Glen Sannox is bigger with more capacity and more resilient for weathering a Scottish winter. But if the Glen Sannox looks familiar, that's because it was actually launched before, back in 2017 in front of then First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. But this ferry wasn't finished. The windows you see are actually painted on. It was all for show. Today was its second launch, 7 years on, and the ferry operator told me it still actually has some flaws to be fixed.
Still a few wee bits and pieces that we need to work through, but nothing that will stop us keeping her in service now.
We've been speaking to people who've lost thousands of pounds. People have lost confidence in coming to the Isle of Arran. What do you say to them?
For the extent that we can, I've apologised on many occasions. I spend a lot of time speaking to community groups personally. I know those feelings, and where it's down to us, we will take that on the chin.
There has been an inquiry into what went so farcically wrong here, and we're still awaiting the findings from that. But the Glen Sannox is here now, it is operational, and I can confirm the windows are even real this time. A second ferry for this route is due, we are told, later this year. They can only hope when it comes to customer confidence that ship hasn't already sailed. Peter Smith, ITV News, Arran.
You are watching the ITV Evening News. It's a little bit before 7 o'clock, and here's what's still ahead. Jules Law, a mother whose son took his own life, wants bereaved parents to have access to their children's social media.
Where else in the law do children accept terms and conditions and parents have no control over that? I massively just want to stop any parent having to go through what we're going through.
Private car park companies may give customers longer to pay for their tickets after a review of the rules.
I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'd like to announce my retirement from boxing. It's been a blast.
Tyson Fury announces, you just heard it, his retirement once again a month after his loss to Alexander Usyk.
We're going on a bear hunt!
We're going to catch a big one.
A brand new book from the creators of this children's classic.
And after a bitingly cold weekend, warmer air is moving in, but how long will it last? I've got all the details a little later in the programme.
Well, that is all still to come. But first, the pain and the misery inflicted by the California wildfires, as seen through the eyes of the residents of a single street. Haverford Avenue in the Pacific Palisades area of LA bore the brunt of the largest fire at the end of last week. ITV News cameras filmed in the road as firefighters desperately tried to keep the flames at bay. Well, now we have returned as residents assess the damage and try to retrieve whatever they can. Some houses were spared, but others were completely destroyed. And it is clear that the street and indeed the community, like many others in the area, will never be the same again. Our correspondent Robert Moore has this special report.
5 days ago, we watched Haverford Avenue burn. Today, the flames are extinguished. Where homes were being consumed in front of our eyes, now there is an eerie silence. But what is the future of this ruined street and this ravaged town?
Climbing this hill to get to the top.
Among those sneaking back in is Farhad, an architect, evading police roadblocks to discover the fate of his home.
Do you know if your house is standing right now?
I'm going to go see.
As he reaches Haverford Avenue, his fears grow.
It's shocking. People here, I knew, a whole bunch of them. Huge building here is gone.
This is the moment of truth.
This is my house. Right.
Almost miraculously, it is untouched by fire. That's remarkable, given that these are the views all around him. He struggles to process how random the destruction is.
You're mystified.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand how this didn't burn, that burned, this didn't burn.
There is a reason that Farhad's house was saved, and we saw it last Wednesday. The singular effort of Fire Truck 10 and its crew, including Andy Chan.
This one's already gone, so we're trying to keep it from communicating to this complex on this side.
Who battled to keep the inferno from spreading. But then a realization nothing will be the same again, even with his home intact.
Well, you know, it feels good. But what's the house without a neighborhood? There's no neighbors, there's no friend.
Paul and his daughter Ella were among those neighbours.
Ella?
Living directly opposite Farhad, they also have come back briefly to check on their home. It is an apocalyptic scene.
I think this is the bottom of our dining room table.
This is the true loss out of all of this, not the possessions, but actually connections and community. Used to be paradise. It's truly paradise lost.
It's just hard to even understand or even imagine. It's just heartbreaking, not for me, but for the whole community as well.
Paul, will you stay or will you go?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's going to be painful to look at it.
The randomness of the fire, why some homes survived and others were reduced to rubble, mystifies Paul as well.
This is my neighbor Farhad, the really nice architect, and it's unbelievable that his building survived while mine burned to the ground. Nothing is left.
Down the street, the police have arrived, wondering if these brothers are looters.
The thing is that you're not supposed to be here. Yeah, no.
In fact, Philip and Thomas have come back to retrieve something from their house, the most precious possession from the family safe.
Yeah, they're still warm, actually. The real treasure is some sketches. My dad draws a lot, so we had like the best sketches we're putting in there.
Their father has dementia, and the retrieval of these drawings will be a light in the darkness for all the family.
This will be really important for him and for all of us that, you know, we got something back from the rubble.
But these brothers say the family will not attempt to rebuild.
For my parents, I think they're too old to want to go through that process, so for us it's just a chance to move on.
The three sets of neighbours are all making different choices. Philip and Thomas are leaving town forever. Paul and Ella are undecided. And Farhad is committed to staying. And he has a final request. Can he meet the firefighters who saved his house? We find Fire Truck 10 and Andy Chan a few miles away.
I wanted you to meet this man.
How you doing, sir?
Ramon.
Brandon.
Thank you, man. What was it like? How did you do it?
We did what we could.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Everything is burning. Everything is burning around me. I can't believe it. I'm standing. It's a miracle. What you guys have done is a miracle. I'm an architect. I'm here to help rebuild. Maybe you saved my life for that reason. I don't know, but I intend to make something out of it for sure. Thank you so much. Oh my God.
Daunted by the scale of what lies ahead, Farhad looks down on Haverford Avenue and the sea of devastation. The architect has a new mission now, to help rebuild the town that has suffered such a shattering blow. Robert Moore, ITV News, in Pacific Palisades.
Extraordinary pictures there. Piece from Robert. And now let's get an update on what's making the news tonight. The violent boyfriend of a young mother who took her own life and blamed him for driving her to her death has been found not guilty of killing her. The Prime Minister has pledged to turn the UK into an artificial intelligence superpower in a bid to boost growth. Police have charged a man with attempted murder after a nurse was stabbed as she worked at the Royal Oldham Hospital on Saturday. The nurse is being treated for life-changing injuries. Our North of England reporter Amy Welsh is in Oldham. Amy, what are the police saying there?
Well, Greater Manchester Police have now named that 37-year-old man as Ruman Hack from Royton in Oldham. He has been charged with attempted murder and with the possession of a bladed article after a nurse was stabbed here at the Royal Oldham Hospital on Saturday night. And he will appear before Manchester Magistrates Court tomorrow. Now, the police were called here at around 11:30 p.m. to report that a member of the public had been attacked by a member of the staff, and he will now appear before Manchester Magistrates Court tomorrow. Now, it was around 11:30 p.m. that Saturday night the police were called to report that a member of the public had attacked a nurse working at the acute medical unit here at the Royal Oldham Hospital. It's understood that she was stabbed with a sharp object rather than a knife, that she's in her 50s, that she suffered serious life-changing injuries. And the union Unison, which represents 500,000 healthcare workers, says its staff are increasingly being placed at risk.
What we're hearing from our frontline staff working out there is that the pressures they're facing have never been greater, and with that does come an increased risk of violence and aggression from the public as frustrations can run high. People are desperate for the care for their loved ones, but this, can put people in at particular risks.
Well, there has been an increased police presence here throughout the day. The hospital themselves say they're deeply saddened and shocked at what has happened, but there's still no news yet as to when and if that nurse will be able to go home.
Amy Welch in Oldham, thank you. Now, a mother's campaign to win the right for parents to access their child's social media accounts after their death was discussed in Parliament today. Ellen Room wants to know why her 14-year-old son, Jules Sweeney, died. A coroner found he'd taken his own life, but that he probably didn't intend to. His mother believes social media may hold crucial clues, but she hasn't been allowed to access Jules's accounts. Carrie Davis reports.
Jules Sweeney, a fun-loving 14-year-old, was always up for a challenge, often inspired to take on the ones he spotted on social media. His mum, Ellen Room, suspects that a challenge gone wrong could be behind Jules's death. She found him unconscious in his bedroom in April 2022. Desperately seeking answers, she has fought for access to his online accounts. Having found it almost impossible, she's been campaigning for change.
Where else in the law do children accept terms and conditions and parents have no control over that? And I think parents should have the right to see what their children are looking at. When a child dies, who are we protecting? The social media companies and the perpetrators? I massively just want to stop any parent having to go through what we're going through. When you're trying to grieve a child, you don't need any more stress in your life.
Until fairly recently, tech companies could refuse access unless it's for a criminal police investigation. Last April, coroners were given the power to request social media evidence, and the data bill, which is making its way through Parliament, will compel social media companies to keep data in cases where a child has died. That still won't give bereaved parents like Ellen direct access to the information. She was in Parliament as MPs debated her petition this afternoon.
Recent changes to the law, the implementation of those changes, and the response of social media companies are not yet sufficient.
It is simply wrong that information that may offer clarity and peace to parents facing a new reality without their child is denied them.
TikTok, Meta and Snapchat have all said they cooperate fully with any police investigations. A spokesperson for TikTok added that in Jules's case, by the time police requested the data, it had been deleted. Ellen says today's debate would make her son proud.
I love you.
But now she wants action so other grieving families avoid the battle she's faced. Carrie Davis, ITV News.
Private parking companies have promised to update their code of conduct after a motorist was hit with huge fines for taking more than 5 minutes to pay after entering a car park. Driver Rosie Hudson was taken to court for almost £2,000 by the operator of a car park in Derby. Now, she claimed that she'd struggled to get a mobile phone signal to pay in time and was then fined. Rosie told Charlie Frost she was made to feel like a criminal.
It's supposed to cost £3.50 a day to park in this car park in Derby. But despite paying the fee, Rosie Hudson ended up being charged a lot more.
A lovely grand total of, well, £1,900.
Rosie received 10 parking fines over several days after she took longer than 5 minutes to pay the day rate each time she parked because she was looking for phone signal so she could use the app. A length of time which is currently against the terms and conditions. She paid the first fine but decided not to pay the rest, so the car park operator made a court claim against her.
They've made me feel like a criminal. They've made me feel like I've done a crime. You know, I've just parked my car, and the way it's been dealt with and the way it's been handled, I personally feel that I've been scaremongered into paying for something that I didn't need to pay for.
After Rosie spoke to journalists in December, Excel dropped her case. And now the two industry bodies that regulate private parking firms say they're going to update their code of conduct and scrap the 5-minute rule.
You certainly have a commitment from the sector that they will make a change that is implemented by the 1st of February. And for me, that shows that the tools that the sector is putting in place really are there to address issues, identify them and react to them very quickly.
I feel like I've been heard, I've been listened to, they're taking my situation seriously. I may have won my case, but there's thousands of other people across the UK that are still going through the situation right now.
A triumph for the ordinary motorist that'll help others battling unfair fines. Charlie Frost, ITV News.
Now, Tyson Fury has announced he's retiring from boxing again. It comes after the former world heavyweight champion lost to Alexander Usyk last month. Well, Ellie Pitt is here. Does he mean it this time?
Well, Mary, I think it's fair to say that there's quite a bit of scepticism amongst boxing fans about this announcement by Tyson Fury today. His own promoter, Frank Warren, didn't even know beforehand that he was going to put this video out, though he did wish him all the best and say that he was glad he'd made his mind up about what he was going to do. There might be a clue as to why he's made this decision in the video that he posted online a few hours ago. Let's take a look at that.
Hi everybody, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'd like to announce my retirement from boxing. It's been a blast. I've loved every single minute of it, and I'm going to end with this. Dick Turpin wore a mask. God bless everybody. See you on the other side. Get up!
It's that reference to Dick Turpin that's got everyone asking questions. So why did he talk about the 18th century highwayman? Well, it's that phrase, at least Dick Turpin wore a mask, that's used by people who think they've been blatantly ripped off or robbed. Is he hinting at that loss to Alexander Usyk last month? It was his second defeat of his career. It was a rematch and Fury lost on points. But that defeat might hurt him. It was, as I say, only the second in his otherwise exceptional career. The former heavyweight is one of a generation's best boxers. There's also another theory, though, today. Retirement is mentioned a lot in his series with his family that's been on Netflix recently. The other theory is that this is all promo and build up to drama to a hugely anticipated fight, a great British boxing fight, which will be between him and Anthony Joshua, which has been hinted at heavily as happening this summer. Fans don't think it's going to be the last they see of Tyson
Boxing
Fury.
hype. Who'd have thought it? Ellie, thank you. Well, still to come on ITV Evening News, the creators of the beloved classic We're Going on a Bear Hunt team up for a new book.
And would you believe me if I told you there had been a 30-degree shift in temperatures across some parts of the UK in just the last 48 hours? Amazing but true. I'll have all the details next.
We do join me and Becky for that after this short break. We'll see you then. Hello, welcome back. Time for a look at the weather now. Becky is here, and it was, obvious statement, incredibly cold this weekend, wasn't it?
I loved it, though.
Me too.
Just so beautiful. You wake out, look out the window, Narnia.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Yeah,
gorgeous.
stunning.
And some of us, actually, we saw our coldest night of the year for 15 years on Friday night. 15 years, just trying to think about that. These were the kind of values that we were looking at their coldest. Parts of Scotland, Altnahara, minus 18.9. I mean, that is nuts if you think about it. And actually, let's try and put that in a little bit more context. We've had the most unbelievable contrast in temperatures. These values here in blue were recorded at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. And these values here were recorded at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, bearing in mind, these weren't the peak, these green temperatures here, they weren't the warmest temperatures that we had today. Altnahara has saw temperatures rising up to around 11 degrees. And that makes it a 30-degree shift in temperatures in just over 48 hours. I find that absolutely unbelievable. Let's have a look at what's going on. This is very exciting for weatherbods, you have to remember. Now, this is the picture at the moment. We've got high pressure sitting out to the east, low pressure to the west, and the warming temperatures are down to the fact we're now getting the winds in from a very warm mid-Atlantic southwesterly direction rather than from the cold north. And if we jump ahead to the end of the week, it really is a matter of spot the difference. We've still got the high towards the east, we've still got low towards the west, we've still got this relatively mild airflow, and that means just for the here and now at least, for the next 5 to 10 days at least, we've got temperatures which are around, or even, can you believe, above the seasonal average. Let's have a look now at the detail.
Visibility may be low this evening as the cold weather hits. Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.
I have to apologise for my excitement. I do find this incredibly exciting. That kind of temperature shift is not something you see very often. Let's get the detail then for the next few days. And as you can see for this week, it is, of course, turning less cold, largely cloudy, mostly dry. A really quiet week of weather, in fact. We do have the risk of fog in the south as those winds fall light. The potential for a weather warning for that in place is just worth bearing in mind. So let's have a look at what's going on tonight. We've got a weakening weather system as it runs into an area of high pressure sitting towards the south of us. It really is just a band of cloud by the time we get to the end of the night. Look at these temperatures. Need to get this on a T-shirt. That would be exciting, wouldn't it? These temperatures here are warmer than we would normally expect to see during the day in mid-January. It's still cooler and clearer, though, towards the south with the risk of frost. Now, as we look ahead to the picture for Tuesday, we've still got that very weak system just kind of waggling around the central areas, and it's going to be a predominantly cloudy sort of day, largely dry. I think there will be some brightness rather than sunshine, though. Probably the best of it across eastern Scotland, maybe the far southern counties of the UK. And again, those temperatures around or above the seasonal average, certainly towards the northwest. This is above what we would normally expect to see in January. Just be calm, Rebecca. It's only temperatures. Now, looking ahead to the next few days, it is a very static sort of picture. And as I say, don't be too encouraged by this. This is actually really just brightness rather than sunny spells. So you might squeeze some sunshine in places. Temperatures slowly tailing off, but really we're back to January as usual.
Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.
So plenty to talk about with the weather. Certainly over the last few days, we've had some really eye-catching sort of things going on. But then I think we are moving into a calmer period. And I have to say, I'm going to rather miss the really extreme stuff.
And calm.
And calm.
And calm. Thank you. And finally tonight, many parents and carers will have the poetic words and beautiful pictures to "We're Going on a Bear Hunt" etched into their memories. The classic children's book has been a firm family favourite since its launch in 1989. It sold 9 million copies, was turned into an animated film and stage show, and even helped to set a world record. Well, now the writer, Michael Rosen, and the illustrator, Helen Oxenbury, are teaming up again. Chloe Keedy reports.
We're going on a bear hunt!
We're going to
It's a journey that generations of children have taken again and again. The bear hunt that became a bedtime classic. But the minds that made this magic haven't met since. Until now, 36 years on.
It just so happened that there was a text sitting in a book that, with a bit of tweaking and squeaking, Helen got interested in it.
Did you always hope, after the success of Bear Hunt, that you would get to work together again?
Oh, of course. I mean, she is magnificent. I mean, she is one of the great children's book makers, artists and story writer herself. You know, you can hope as much as you like in the children's book world. It might not happen.
But it has.
Yes, it has.
The new book is based on one of Rosen's poems called
"Oh Dear, Look What I Got."
Have you seen what she's working on for the new book?
I have. I've had some secret little looks, and then I've seen, I think, one colour picture, possibly one or two more. So it's a bit like, what is it, when it's the fog lifts and you suddenly it's coming into shape.
Yeah, there's a lot in it, isn't there?
Yes,
Chairs and bears and
parrots and goats and carrots.
Hats and cats.
Exactly. and they're all in it. And Helen has sort of levered them all in.
While the writer kept his focus on the rhythm.
It's all you ever want if you make a picture book or a little poem is for children to catch it. You want it to be like catching fish in a way. You want it to go, and then for them to remember the words. Oh dear, look what I got. Do I want that? No, I do not. And there's bound to be some children that mum or dad will say to them, well, you know, eat up your dinner or something like that. And the kid will go, do I want that? No, I do not. Victory, result.
So parents all over the country can blame you for that.
Exactly. They blame me for Bear Hunt, which is, you know, oh dear, you know, I've read it for the 500th time. I probably know it better than you, they say, and they're right.
But don't worry, there'll soon be a new one to know.
Oh dear, they gave me a bear.
Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Oh, wonderful. That's all from us for now. Nina's here with more at 10, but from me and all the evening news team, bye-bye.